Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's study, and we're going to continue looking at 2 Kings, dealing with the chronology and some of the stories here. There's a lot to sort out. I'm not sure how far we're going to get. But before we do, let's have a word of prayer. Dear Father in heaven, we invite your Spirit's presence here. We need your help in studying these things, Lord, because our ability to understand them is limited. But we know, Lord, that as we look at these things, in your word, the chronology of the kings of Judah and Israel and the stories that are there, that you can help us sort through these things and correct any misunderstandings we may have. We ask that your Spirit can enlighten our minds, that your Holy Spirit can guide us in this study, and that we can come to know you. So be with us now, we pray, in Jesus' name. Okay, so before the study, Stephen and I were discussing a few of these little points that are rather confusing in this chronology. So, yeah, we have all of these, and I've been trying to sort through this myself because I know I worked through some of it when I did the chronology of the kings of Judah and Israel. There's some things I couldn't solve, but I worked with the assumption that we can just add up the kings of Judah and get the years. The conflict arises when we try to deal with the kings of Israel. That you end up with these things that don't make sense. Now, what people often do is they resort to saying, well, there's a typo. And I'll just point out one of them here. So I know we went through chapter 1, but I want to just jump ahead. So we got this guy, Ahaziah. Okay. So Ahaziah here, he is a king of Israel, right? And so he's going to be, let me see here, he's going to just reign for a short period of time. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to look at all these different things at once. I think I'm going to move my Bible over so I don't have to switch between screens. Okay. So we have Ahaziah, king of Israel, and then we have an Ahaziah, king of Judah. So in chapter 8, we're going to be introduced, verse 25, to the Ahaziah, king of Judah. Then we also have a Joram or a Jehoram, who's king of Israel, and a Joram or a Jehoram, who's king of Judah. So A names and J names, they seem to be pretty popular with these kings of Judah and Israel. And that makes it hard for me to keep track of who's who. So sometimes I get confused. And I'm sure that some of you do as well, right? We don't have all of the kings of Judah and Israel memorized, and we know their backstories and everything like that. So some of the kings we know quite well. And I think it's important as we go through this that we come to understand who these people are and the various stories that are attached to them, not just a chronology. So in the past, I worked through the chronology, but I never really got the people sorted out in my mind. I just was satisfied that, the math worked and I could connect that chronology together. And I had done it with that sort of ladder way of doing it, where I had that document with all the kings of Judah and Israel and the years and the scriptures, so I could put them step by step next to each other. So we got this Ahaziah, king of Israel, and he's going to be beginning his reign in 898, and then he's going to be followed by Joram, right? So Joram, king of Israel. Now, Joram is going to be, so what's the relationship, Stephen, if you can explain this to me? How are these, there's a relationship between the kings of Judah and Israel, right? Somehow, but I always get mixed up. If you're there, Stephen.
Yeah, so I think it's Athaliah. It's the daughter of Ahab.
Okay. So that's
so
going to be...
marries, yeah. So she's going to marry Jehoram, the king of Judah.
Okay.
And then they're going to have a son called Ahaziah.
Okay, so that Ahaziah then is related to the Ahaziah, king of Israel, through the family of Ahab. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's where I always get that confused, like how that works. Okay, now they both name Jehoram? So Jehoram is a new dynasty, right? So when we get to Jehoram,
No, I think he's
he's still the same dynasty.
of Ahab and
Right.
Omri.
It's gonna be Jehu starts the new dynasty.
Yes.
Okay. That in the kingdom of Israel, right? So you have Ahab, Ahaziah, Joram or Jehoram, and then Jehu is going to be the next dynasty. So yeah, so Ahaziah is going to have that. He's going to die, but then his son, which is Joram or Jehoram, he's going to still reign for 12 years, and then when he dies, then that there's going to be a new dynasty with Jehu. Okay. So, yeah, okay. And then we got the Joram, king of Judah. So he's the son of Jehoshaphat. So they're not related at all. They just have the same name. But the Ahaziahs are related. Is that correct, Stephen? Is that what you're saying?
Um, yes, well, I would think, yeah, so Jehoshaphat's son Jehoram's going to marry Athaliah. So he's going to be sort of like an in-law of Ahab in that way.
Okay. But the fact that they have the same name is just not because they're related in any way. Like they have their names before he gets married.
Yes.
Okay, but the Ahaziahs are related. One's the uncle, right? The Ahaziah, king of Israel, would be the uncle of the king of Judah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I think I got that straight. I know my daughters could probably keep this all straight, because girls are good at all these different relationships and everybody has. But for me, this is a tough thing to keep track of. Okay, so I think that makes sense. Yeah, okay. I think I have that straight in my mind. Now we're gonna run into some. Well, we're gonna run into some difficulty with Jehoram, uh, king of Judah, in trying to figure out exactly when he reigned. So we take that there's a 2-year co-regency. Different people look at the puzzle differently, right? So it's not like there's one solution, but we're not quite there yet. But I do want to, yeah, because you did send the diagrams, which we're going to go over again, but I just want to look at them right now, see because you're here, so I know that you can explain them. So the 2-year co-regency. So we haven't really looked at this yet. This is going to be 2 Kings chapter 3, and dealing with Joram begins to reign over Israel in Samaria. So we're going to run into the first Jehoram, the king of Israel. And then in the 5th year of Jehoram, Jehoshaphat then being king of Judah. So the 5th year of Jehoram, king of Israel, Jehoshaphat being then king of Judah. Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, began to reign. So while Jehoshaphat is king, his son Jehoram, who's sometimes called Joram, and he's going to begin to reign. So we're going to have that 5th year, but then you're going to have, so when Jehoshaphat reigned, so that's going to be the 23rd year of Jehoshaphat, right? And we would figure that out. Here we have, so the 18th year, right? So basically the puzzle is here. We have the 8th year of Jehoshaphat, Jehoram begins to reign. And then in the 5th year of Jehoram, we have a co-regency. And then we have Jehoshaphat die 2 years after that co-regency. So you got from the 18th year to the 25th year is going to be 7 years. And then Stephen had pointed out that you got this 18 years and this 7 years being a symbol of July 18th. Plus you have the 7 years divided into 2 and 5 years in sort of a mirror image that you had in the story of Joseph with that 7 years of famine being divided into 2 and 5. Is that the best explanation of this, Stephen? This chart? Is that?
Yeah, that was okay.
Yeah, there's just, I mean, it's pretty straightforward when you look at it here, the 18, the 5, the 2. But there still becomes some complexity when we start looking at the verses that talk about these reigns. So they have a way of looking at it that is kind of odd. And you'll see this when we get into some of these. So this whole period here, because you're going to have this situation with Athaliah, however you say it, Athaliah, and then you're going to have, what's the guy's name? Joash, right? It's going to be Joash. We're going to have that situation. Yeah, Joash. And then you have a Jehoash later on in the kings of Israel. So you have a Joash in the kingdom of Judah. So technically Athaliah is going to reign for 6 years in the kings of Judah. So this becomes just things that have to be cleared up. But this chart here is good. So I don't think nobody has trouble with that chart. It looks pretty straightforward.
I just wanted to comment on in my Bible in the middle of the page here for verse 17 in 2 Kings 1. It says the second year that Jehoram was pro-rex and the 18th year of Jehoshaphat. And then it says chapter 3:1. So that kind of confirms this chart and what we've been saying.
Okay. So, in the second, so you have this word what? Pro-rex?
Yeah, that's Latin. That just means before the king or for the king.
Oh, well, reigned in his stead in the second year of Jehoram. So Jehoram reigned in his stead in the second year of Jehoram, son of Jehoshaphat. So
my theory, I can't support this because I haven't looked into it, but probably Jehoshaphat was ailing the last couple of years, so he needed
that's
training an apprentice.
Idea.
Yeah, he's training his successor.
Yeah, so when it says Jehoram reigned in his stead in the second year of Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, that's referring to Ahaziah. So Jehoram, the son of how does that go? I'm trying to get, because my mind just has trouble with these names. So you're going to have in the second year of, so it says here, so he died according to the word of the Lord. So that's Ahaziah, right? Is that his name? Right, the king here that we're talking about? Yeah, Ahaziah. So Ahaziah is going to die according to the prophecy there. So he died according to the word of the Lord, which Elijah had spoken. And Jehoram reigned in his stead. So that Jehoram is Jehoram of Israel, right? He's going to reign in the place of Ahaziah.
Okay, so that kind of contradicts what I just said, but anyway, there's definitely a co-regency here.
Yeah, this isn't the co-regency here. So yeah, so that's in 2 Kings 3 verse 1, where you have now Jehoram the son of Ahab began to reign over Israel and Samaria in the 18th year of Jehoshaphat king of Judah, and reigned 12 years. So this one here, in the second year of Jehoram the son of Jehoshaphat king of Judah, because he had no son.
Yeah, so Jehoram's a brother.
Okay, explain, because I'm confused. So explain this verse here. I better show that on the screen.
Yeah, so Ahaziah would probably be the firstborn, and then Jehoram's the younger son.
Okay, so Jehoram is Ahab's son as well.
Yes.
And he reigns because he has no, okay. So when it says Jehoram reigned in his stead in the second year of Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, that doesn't make sense to me, but I'm not sure what I'm, because the son of Jehoshaphat that's going to be before Jehoshaphat reigns, because he's not going to be reigning until, or Jehoram reigns. He doesn't begin reigning until the 5th year of Jehoram, king of Israel. So what are they saying there? What am I missing?
Yeah, I think it's is he like a regent for a few years first of all, before he actually reigns?
Who is a regent?
I can't remember. I remember reading it. I don't have the document. But,
yeah, I just find this confusing because Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, he hasn't begun reigning yet.
Yes. So I think, does he have a regent then before he actually reigns with his father? He's
well, he does, but
regent?
that's way later. Right? So this verse puzzles me. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with this verse, because he reigned in his stead in the second year of Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, which is not the case. Because he's going to be beginning his reign in, because if we go to 3 verse 1, now Jehoram the son of Ahab began to reign over Israel and Samaria in the 18th year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. Right? So that's when he begins to reign. So this verse here in chapter 1, verse 17, where it says Jehoram reigned in his stead in the second year of Jehoram the son of Jehoshaphat, I don't think that can be correct. He's going to reign, because he begins his reign, because Jehoshaphat is going to co-reign with Jehoram, his son, as you pointed out, in the 23rd year of his reign, which is the 5th year of the reign of Jehoram, king of Israel. So Jehoram, king of Israel, can't begin reigning in the second year of Jehoram, king of Judah. So there's something about this verse we're not understanding. And the case that I make is that when there's these weird things that don't seem to make sense, the problem is that we don't go and fix the text, because the people who copied this document, they obviously didn't have a problem with it. If they thought it made no sense, they're not going to continue copying something that doesn't make sense. So they must have understood this in some way. Now, the commentators, they, let me see what we can look at some of the different commentators. So here's what Albert Barnes says about this verse. The similarity of names of the two royal houses of Israel and Judah at this time, and at no other, seems to be the consequence of the close ties which united the two reigning families, and is well noted among the undesigned coincidences of the Old Testament. The accession of the Israelite Jehoram, Ahab's brother. Oh, so that's Ahab's brother? Okay. Took place according to 2 Kings 31 in the 18th year of Jehoshaphat. Jehoram of Judah perhaps received the royal title from his father as early as his father's 16th year, when he was about to join Ahab against the Syrians. The same year might then be called either the 18th year of Jehoshaphat or the second year of Jehoram. Oh, so what they're saying is that doesn't make sense. I still don't understand it. And we're gonna understand it. That's a goal. What does John Gill say? Jehoram reigned at his stead, who was another son of Ahab. So he says he's a son of Ahab, the brother of Ahaziah. So that's the position we took. In the second year of Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. But as he must begin his reign in the 19th, or in the latter of the 18th year of Jehoshaphat, and Jehoshaphat reigned in all 25 years, he must live and reign after the 6 or 7 years. This, therefore, is to be reconciled by observing that his son of Jehoshaphat was made viceroy right? So that's Jehoram of Judah. Or he was taken into partnership in the throne by his father when he went with Ahab to Ramoth Gilead. And it was in the second year of his reign that with his father, that the other Jehoram began his. But that still doesn't make any sense. So there's something I'm not understanding here. According to my chronology, that doesn't make sense. Do you understand it at all, Stephen? So
I think it's from what I remember, I think maybe the viceroy option makes more sense.
For who? You mean in the kingdom of Israel?
No.
In the kingdom of Judah. Yeah.
Yeah. Jehoram was like a viceroy with Jehoshaphat, first of all, before he actually co-reigned with him.
Yeah. But when are we beginning that co-reg? So he's going to have a co-regency or a vice regency that goes way back earlier. You're saying?
Yeah, so that would maybe be on the 17th year of Jehoshaphat or 16th year maybe.
Okay, so there's but we have a 2-year co-regency.
We do, but this is not a reigning with him. It's like a viceroy. He's
okay. So he's helping his father. Like he's a type of prince, but he's not really a co-regent. So he's going to become the sole king, even though his dad is still alive, in the 23rd year. But you're saying that back in the 16th year or something, he's also going to be viceroy. Okay.
So you have the battle of Ramoth Gilead happening. So I think it's just in case Jehoshaphat dies in that battle that you have Jehoram then made raised a wee bit to a viceroy status.
Okay.
Before, in case his father dies.
Okay. Well, that makes sense, but it's not really clear, right? Like you can see if somebody goes through this and they can just say, well, that's a typo, right? That's what people do. They switch it all around. They create some new chronology. But so the only time we have a co-regency is with Jehoshaphat and Jehoram, or Joram, however you want to call him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here he's called Jehoram. And this makes it confusing because it says, and Jehoram reigned in his stead in the second year of Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, right? So you got 2 different Jehorams. And we have the Jehoram king of Israel. He's going to be reigning in the second year when Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, is a viceroy. But it says it says Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. So it doesn't say what Jehoram is, right? It's just, but obviously it has to be when Jehoshaphat is still alive, right? That's the point that's pretty clear. So somebody back then, they would understand what's going on. We're the ones having the trouble. Okay. So we're gonna deal with that puzzle again. We're gonna get it all sorted out. Okay. Now, in chapter 2, we're gonna have the story of Elijah being taken to heaven. And why is my screen not changing? There it is. Okay. And it came to pass when the Lord would take up Elijah into heaven by a whirlwind that Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal. And Elijah said unto Elisha, Tarry here, I pray thee, for the Lord hath sent me to Bethel. And Elisha said unto him, As the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. So they went down to Bethel. And the sons of the prophets that were at Bethel came forth to Elisha and said unto him, Knowest thou that the Lord will take away thy master from thy head today? And he said, Yea, I know it. Hold ye your peace. And Elijah said unto him, Elisha, tarry here, I pray thee, for the Lord hath sent me to Jericho. And he said, As the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. So they came to Jericho. And the sons of the prophets that were at Jericho came to Elisha and said unto him, Knowest thou that the Lord will take away thy master from thy head today? And he answered, Yea, I know of it. Hold ye your peace. And Elijah said unto him, Tarry, I pray thee, here, for the Lord has sent me to Jordan. And he said, As the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. And the two went on. And 50 men of the sons of the prophets went and stood to view afar off, and they too stood by Jordan. And Elijah took his mantle and wrapped it together and smote the waters, and they were divided hither and thither, so that they too went over on dry ground. And it came to pass, when they were gone over, that Elijah said unto Elisha, Ask what I shall do for thee, before I be taken away from thee. And Elisha said, I pray thee, let a double portion of thy spirit be upon me. And he said, Thou hast asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if thou see me when I am taken from thee, it shall be so unto thee. But if not, it shall not be so. And it came to pass, as they still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. And Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. And he saw him no more. And he took hold of his own clothes, and rent them in two pieces. And he took up also the mantle of Elijah, that fell from him, and went back, and stood by the bank of Jordan. And he took the mantle of Elijah, that fell from him, and smote the waters, and said, Where is the Lord God of Elijah? And when he also had smitten the waters, they parted hither and thither, and Elisha went over. And when the sons of the prophets which were to view at Jericho saw him, they said, The spirit of Elijah doth rest on Elisha. And they came to meet him, and bowed themselves to the ground before him. And they said unto him, Behold now, there be with thy servants 50 strong men. Let them go, we pray thee, and seek thy master, lest peradventure the Spirit of the Lord hath taken him up, and cast him upon some mountain, or into some valley. And he said, Ye shall not send. And then when they urged him till he was ashamed, he said, Send. They sent therefore 50 men, and they sought 3 days, but found him not. And when they came again to him, for he tarried at Jericho, he said unto them, Did I not say unto you, Go not? And the men of the city said unto Elisha, Behold, I pray thee, the situation of this city is pleasant, and as my Lord seeth, but the water is not, and the ground is barren. And he said, Bring me a new cruse, and put salt therein. And they brought it to him. And he went forth him to the spring of the waters, and cast the salt there, and said, Thus saith the Lord, I have healed these waters, and there shall not be from thence any more death or barren land. So the waters were healed unto this day, according to the saying of Elisha, which he spake. And he went up from thence unto Bethel, and as he was going up by the way, there came forth little children out of the city, and mocked him, and said unto him, Go up, thou bald head, go up, thou bald head. And he turned back, and looked on them, and cursed them in the name of the Lord. And there came 2 she-bears out of the wood, and tare 42 children of them. And he went from thence to Mount Carmel, and from thence returned to Samaria. Okay. So in the midst of all of this situation with these kings of Judah and Israel, we have this story. So what should we do with this right now? How should we approach studying this? Are we going to take our time and go through this slowly? There's obviously
I find it interesting that the prophets of Jericho were like the prophets of that were at Bethel. They knew that Elijah would be taken to heaven, and yet further on in the story they doubted and go on a search for him. And also with the mocking children, I'm thinking of those that were mocking the Millerites after October 22nd, 1844.
Mm-hmm.
Get on your ascension robes and rise,
Yeah. So, and Samuel Snow actually wrote a letter on, which is published in May 1st in the Signs of the Times, about the mockers. We don't usually count that as one of Samuel Snow's letters, not because it's not a letter, but because he's not addressing the prediction of the prophetic periods in that one. Not any information in there. But it is the day before his May 2nd letter is published.
Did it say it was 42 children?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We have a lot of symbols here. We got 42 children. We got 3 days. We have the 50 prophets. So, and all kinds of other. Well, those are numerical symbols, and then there's other symbols as well.
Yeah, this 50 keeps recurring in chapters 1 and 2. So why? That's my question. Jubilee symbol, but what else?
Well, there's the Pentecost symbol as well.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So when it comes to how we've been studying through these different stories, we've had the kings, Saul, David, Solomon, and now we're into the divided kingdom, and we have had different stories, and stories of David and so forth, and Elijah. Now we have this story where Elijah's taken to heaven, and so this is a transitional story. So the question that I'm asking is, how do we take this story that is placed here, right? So don't know how to ask the question, I guess, because how do we look at the transition from Elijah to Elisha in relation to our message, in relation to the movement? So we had Elijah representing Jeff, correct?
Yeah, so the Lord was going to take the work into his own hands.
Right. So that's the position that we've taken. So we've taken the position that God has taken the work into his own hands. That now there was different like Parminder and Tess were using some of these things as well. They were using John the Baptist and Christ. They were using Moses and Joshua, right? They were trying to show this transition from Jeff to their leadership. Now, we've taken the position, which I believe is correct, that leadership goes to Christ. That we're not looking for, some person to take over the movement. We're not starting some new organization. So we took the position that God took the work into his own hands. That is what always has to happen in this history. When we, even when you go from Moses to Joshua, I mean, Joshua is Jesus's name, right? So Jesus is the one who's supposed to be leading the movement. Now, we have the mockers as well, right? So if we look at the history in our movement, is there a mockery that goes on with the failure of July 18, 2020 that parallels October 22nd, 1844, or even the first disappointment, which is the one that...
there certainly is, and I heard an echo of it again last Sabbath.
Yeah. Okay. So, but we don't believe that there's some person that we look to. We look to Christ individually and as a group, that we believe that God is taking this work into his hands. And we believe there's evidences of that in the light that he has given us, how it's unfolded. So the point that I'm asking, I'm trying to frame the question. So here in this point of the story is where this occurs. So we've been studying through the kings of Judah, and then the kings of Israel, the United Kingdom, now the divided kingdom. And here we have this story. It's just kind of placed here. And the question I'm asking is there a purpose in that, where this story is placed, for us to understand? Is there some reason? Or is this just they have to put the story somewhere, so this is where it is? Or is there some purpose that God has in where the story is? And the other thing, in asking that question, so we believe that as we go over the ground of fulfilled prophecy, that we come to understand things, that things occur that shine light on past events. So things that we didn't understand in the past fully, as we go over the ground of fulfilled prophecy, we see those things fulfilled. And then that helps us understand past events. And then it gives us light for our feet. So when we're studying together, when we come across something, we're coming across that thing at the time that we need to understand it. Would you agree with me there? Is that what we've experienced in studying?
Quite often, yes.
Yeah. So, here we come to this story, and it's like, well, I'm interested in studying the chronology of the kings of Judah and Israel. I'm kind of on that track. But now we have this story of Elijah being taken up to heaven and Elisha getting the double portion of the spirit of Elijah. And the question is there some purpose, something that our attention is being drawn to as we're studying this that we need to understand? I don't know what it would be.
Well, the crossing of the Jordan, the smiting of the Jordan, and and how it dried, how it stood up on both sides. Of course, that takes us back to Moses, the crossing of the Red Sea. It takes us to Joshua and his team crossing the Jordan to come into the Promised Land. So it's all harkening back to the old past that we should be drawing lessons from.
Yeah.
And adhering to lessons from the past to guide us in the present and future.
Okay.
So I thought.
Yep. Stephen?
So in the seals, for instance, you have that story of the seals taking place, and then in chapter 7 you have another story. It sort of sets the seals story aside before you have the seventh seal.
Yeah, dealing with the 144,000.
Yes. So we know the 144,000 are those who, like Elijah, are risen to heaven, that don't see death. So in this way, could be this here chapter here is like throwing that in. You have the story of the kings and so forth, and then you have this here story, Elijah, sort of in a similar way that's happening in Revelation.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I would think it's significant. It's something that we should pay attention to. Like I don't have any answers about it. They're just and it says, "Tarry here, I pray thee," right? Elijah says unto Elisha, "Tarry here, I pray thee." So we got this request to tarry. So we need to tarry.
Well, I don't know if y'all mentioned it or not, but didn't Elijah go across the Jordan, the same spot where Israel went across when they entered?
I don't know. Does it say that?
I don't know. He said he went by Jericho. Where they
Is that where they crossed? I don't know. Does it mention Jericho in that story when they crossed the Jordan? Or does it?
Well, he says he went to Jericho.
Okay. Yeah, but where did they cross?
I was assuming at the same spot that they put the 12 stones.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be close. To me, when I think of the same spot, like I think of the actual spot, it's definitely close. It's going to be in the general area. I mean, there would be an area that would be naturally easy to cross. So I guess we could say it's the same spot. You understand what I'm saying here, right? Like it doesn't tell us the exact spot they crossed, but if you're going to say just in the general sense, yes. Does that make sense, William?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, yeah. I become sometimes really detailed or particular. So, but yeah, so it's going to be they're definitely going to cross in that area, right? Because they're by Jericho and they cross. But exactly, where they cross, I don't know. So I can't say it's exactly the same spot, but it is in the general area. Okay, so we have this sort of parenthetical chapter. Now, is it here then, does it somehow attach to, why would it be here within this story particularly? I mean, they have to put it somewhere, but, why didn't they start this book why wouldn't this be chapter 1 of? Now, of course, we know that the division of Kings is something that's done later, because it was basically one book before, but divided into First and Second Kings later. So I wonder about this. Like, if I was going to make the chapter divisions or the book divisions, I would have probably put this story of Elijah at the end of First Kings, and then had Elisha begin, Second Kings, and because there's nothing in this story in particular that ties us with the chronology of the kings of Judah and Israel, right? Like you could take this chapter, and if you put it at the end of First Kings or the beginning of Second Kings, it would fit just fine, right? I mean, it kind of makes more sense to put it with the stories of Elijah at the end of First Kings. So I don't know how these, chapters get placed, who does this, but this is where they place it. You understand what I'm saying? Any comment on that?
Yeah, I can see your point, but I figured the priests must have known what they were doing when they were assembling these books, ordering these books.
Yeah, and then what I'm saying is that there must be a purpose that God has.
Well, of course.
Yeah. So that, and I want to understand that purpose. So that's why I'm asking the questions. But we can see that it easily could be put in different places, because there's nothing in this story that ties us to the particular kings. Now, we could just say, well, because when's Elisha going to be mentioned again here? So let me see. Elisha.
Is it just chronologically placed? So after Ahaziah, after he dies, goes through the lattice, and then dies soon after, that then you're going to have Elijah then being taken to heaven.
Yeah, but yeah. So what you're saying is in chapter 1, Elijah's going to talk to what's his name, Ahaziah, right?
Yes.
So we have to put it after that. Okay, I see what you're saying. So there is a connection there, but these things aren't still all in order. I mean, yeah, it's probably in order, I guess you could say. Let me think here. But see, they don't always do that. So, I mean, lots of times they go back and repeat things again. Yeah, so obviously we do have Elijah here in this story. So we can say, well, Elijah's here, and now we're not going to have Elijah. So I guess that's why we would put it in chapter 2. Okay, so that makes sense.
Usher dates it to 896 BC. So that's when he has Elijah taken to heaven.
So he has it during the reign of Ahaziah then, right? In his chronology?
No, I would think it'd be after, sure.
After, in his chronology, because
probably Jehoram.
Okay, so maybe. Okay.
I was going to add in verse 11, where it mentions the chariots of fire, horses of fire. What did we start studying in 2020 really early on? Ezekiel, where you have the rings of fire, the wheels of fire. I see that parallel there.
Yeah.
And so then the mourning, we were mourning so much over this, what we thought was the failure of July 18th, 20. And we were wondering, where is God in all this? I mean, I see the parallels all through this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So in chapter 3, you're going to have Elisha being mentioned. So I guess the reason, I guess I could retract that. You couldn't just put this anywhere. Yeah. And I understand what you're saying, Angela. So we got this connection with the chariots, with the wheels within wheels. Okay. So the reason they put this here is because we got Elijah in chapter 1 and we have Elisha in chapter 3. Okay, so they need the transition there. Okay, so yeah, that makes sense, I guess. I wasn't thinking about the fact that Elijah's in chapter 1. Okay. and then Elisha's in chapter 3. So they put this here because now we have the transition. Okay, so if we have this transition between Elijah and Elisha, it's going to occur, as Stephen says, in the reign of Jehoram or Joram, or both Jehorams, right? Basically, it's at that time. Now, Elijah started the school of the prophets, right? Or is that started earlier?
Well, Samuel had schools of the prophets.
Okay. So yeah, Samuel had school of the prophets. So is that just continued with Elijah? Is Elijah just a continuation of that?
Yes.
Okay. So we got Samuel who starts the school of the prophet. Elijah's just then one of the prophets from that school of the prophets. How do we get Elijah? I'm trying to remember.
I don't know that I see Elijah as one of the school of the prophets.
Okay.
I see that his calling as being a separate situation, just as Elisha's calling is a separate situation.
Okay, so you have the school of the prophets. So you have these prophets. What is the school of the prophets? What are these guys doing? What is their role?
To understand scripture, to understand specifically prophecy and how it relates with their time.
Okay.
Now, an odd question regarding this with Elisha.
Okay.
We recognize that Elisha becomes noted as a prophet on his own after Elijah is taken into heaven.
Mm-hmm.
We also note that we have these young men that are less than candid, less courteous than they should be in making comments about Elisha, about Elisha.
They're less what?
Less courteous.
Okay.
They're being very dismissive. Go up.
So,
okay. Go ahead.
Those are the children.
And what happens to those children?
Well, they get chased by two she-bears.
So do we take the she-bears as an example or a type of the bear representing the bear that we find on the 1843 chart?
Well, you're talking about Persia.
Correct.
Yeah, I was thinking that it would be related to Persia. And it's a two-horned power, right?
It's a two-horned power, but this is also one that is of law. So here's the situation for these children. They're ripped apart by a two-horned power. They're ripped apart by the law itself because they're not wanting to accept the covenant of God.
Okay, you have to explain further what you mean.
Well, what is the law that we are supposed to adhere to?
Well, to the law of God.
Right. But these children think of themselves as being wise. And so they are not respectful toward Elisha.
Okay, so who are they representing then?
What if they are representing those of the church that have chosen to be dismissive of July 18th?
But how does that connect to Persia?
Persia is known for its law.
Okay.
Laws that cannot be changed. Can God's law be changed?
Okay, so you're saying that the bears representing just God's law that can't be changed.
Right.
Chase. Okay. See, I was thinking quite a bit differently here.
Okay.
But somewhat related in that I'm looking at when we deal with Persia, we're dealing with the presidents of the United States as well, right?
Yes, I could agree.
Okay. So I was thinking that maybe it had some connection with dealing with the kings of Persia and the kings of the United States as sort of two parallels, these two bears, right? And two different histories, two parallel histories, is how I was thinking of it. Okay, so Angela says, Jeff broke away because of his focus on prophecy from the other independent ministries, as we have had to Elijah and Elisha. What's SSL?
Samuel Snow's letters.
Oh, Samuel Snow's of February 16th, 1844, and TJT's, that must be me. Link being dropped on 2/16/22. Okay, that's the FF. That's the Canadian group. 2/16 scrambled is 126. 1/20th of 25/20. We are among the strong men who continue to follow God's light daily. Yeah, that's too many little things that I don't know.
I'm just picking up threads from the great web here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the thing with the two bears, anyway, getting back to that, Dwight. So I do think that can represent the parallel histories of the kings of Persia and the kings of the United States. Now, one of the things we often talk about with July 18th is, of course, the failure of July 18th. But we also have the failure of Trump being the last president of the United States in the way that Jeff tried to present it, right? So he's not going to have anything past Xerxes. He's just going to go right from Xerxes to Trump being the head of the UN, is what Jeff had predicted. And there's a failure in that prediction. And that was, I think, for many of the people in the movement, with the July 18th failure, that was bad enough. But when Trump failed to get reelected in 2016, or 2020, pardon me, and as they said, I can't remember which one said it, whether it was, I think it was Larry Hine, if that fails, then, basically it's all wrong. I mean, he just wasn't willing to try to figure it out. So I think this has something to do with that. This change from Elijah to Elisha, we definitely can connect to what happened in the movement. So we have the cloak of Elijah being passed on to Elisha. And Jeff tried to pass that on to Parminder, right? But he recognized it wasn't something he couldn't rightfully give it. He couldn't do that after he had, failed. So now the other thing is that we need to take a note of here. So it came to pass when the Lord would take up Elijah into heaven by a whirlwind, that Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal. So first they're going to go from Gilgal. So what does Gilgal represent in our understanding?
Wheels, right? Doesn't mean a turning?
Yeah, it refers to a wheel. Yeah. But where did we place Gilgal as an event when we were studying Judges? We gave it in Judges chapter 2.
Can't remember.
Verse 1. So Judges chapter 2, verse 1, and an angel of the Lord came up from Gilgal to Bochim, right, to the weepers, and said, I have made you go up out of Egypt and have brought you into the land which I swear unto your fathers, and said, I will never break my covenant with you, right? So we looked at this as being 9/11, 2001, right? Remember when we were studying Judges, that application we made of Judges chapter 2 that it laid out from 2001 to 2023, right? So at that time, as we were studying that, the significance of what we were going through within the movement with Colin's prediction and, Trump becoming, president again in the second, with the midterm elections, which never panned out. Okay. So we had that situation. And so when we go then to 2 Kings chapter 2, So we're in a chapter 2 as well, right? Just like we were in Judges chapter 2. And we're going to have Gilgal again, okay? So can we say this is 9/11? So that Elisha, representing Christ, empowers the message at 9/11.
That could work.
Okay, right? So this is representing that history of the movement from 9/11. And there is a transition that happens from 9/11 to our history, where Christ then takes over. But there is a point where that occurs. However, we're going to mark what that event is when the leadership switches. Not that, Christ wasn't leading Jeff prior to 9/11, but as a symbol, right? We got Jeff studying. 9/11 comes unexpectedly to Jeff, right? He's not looking for 9/11. He's not predicting it. But when 9/11 happens, it does empower the first angel's message. So the way that I sort of look at this transition from 9/11 to 2019 that we have that transition occur. Now, Jeff doesn't recognize what's happening. So can we see, though, that Christ took over the movement, the leadership of the movement, prior to July 18, 2020? It's not like you have the failure of the prediction and then Christ takes over. Christ had been taking over the movement, the message of the movement, for quite a while, right? That is, light was coming in from places that had nothing to do with Jeff, and Jeff had really no control over, right? So we could see that God was leading. And now Jeff acknowledged the leading of Christ, but then he got sidetracked. So exactly, what that means, and to him personally, I don't know. But I do know that we're not under the leadership of a man, right? We don't have some organization, and we're not, policing the organization and making sure people are staying in line. We're just trying to study and understand the truth. But we believe that Christ is our leader, that he still can lead us. And we know we don't know a lot, right? We don't understand everything. But we can trust that Christ is doing things. And, we pray for one another. We pray for our friends in the movement. We just know what we've witnessed, that it's true. So anyway, this Gilgal, I think, is important, that it's here in this transitional story. So it's going to start with Gilgal. So then they're going to do this journey, right? So Elijah says unto Elisha, tarry here, I pray thee, for the Lord hath sent me to Bethel. So he's now going to go to Bethel, to the house of God, right? And Elisha said unto him, as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. So they went down to Bethel. So we're going to see that they're going to continue through these different waymarks. However,
Isn't
we're
that
going
like Jeff when he said he sent his message to all the churches he could think of, all the elders of the churches, and it wasn't received?
Yeah, that's why Jeff was reluctant. When people always kept saying we need to go to the leadership, we need to do this, we need to do that. Jeff had already done that, right? He recognized that the church was passed by, that they weren't going to accept the message, and that wasn't what we were trying to do. Lots of times people believe when they have a message that they have to somehow go to the leadership of the church and convince them. They have to get some human confirmation that it's true, right? And the church likes that too, right? I mean, they want you to submit to them. If you have some idea, you have to send it to the BRI or whatever, right? And of course, they're going to reject it because it's not going to fit in with their thinking anyway. Yeah, right now I'm having a conversation, email conversation with a professor in an Adventist university. It's not in the U.S. It's in Europe somewhere. But he's reading some of my papers. It's so strange to see how little they understand about chronology and even about the 2520. So he thinks that Miller taught the 2520 based on Daniel chapter 4. Did Miller use Daniel chapter 4 to present the 2520? That's Jehovah's Witnesses who do that, right? So anyway, so let's get back to this story here. So we have this journey. So he's going to be at Gilgal. So he'll go from Gilgal to Bethel. We probably should look at this on a map, right? And then they're going to run into the sons of the prophets that are in Bethel, right? And they're going to know that Elijah's going to be taken up. Now, how do they know this?
I don't know whether God directly revealed it to him or whether they were told by man.
Yeah, I would think that God must have revealed it. What I don't fully understand is the idiomatic language here when he says, yeah, I know it, hold ye your peace. What he's actually saying there, like how that, like what's the connotations of what does he mean, hold ye your peace?
To keep it until it was the proper time, because remember when Jesus was performing certain miracles, he would say, tell no man, go your way and tell no man.
Yeah, and here it's just this word that means akasha, like hush. Yeah, I know, hush, right? But I don't still fully understand why he's saying that. What, you understand what I mean by that. Like we can write it in English and we could maybe have different ways in which we could sort of frame this. So first is he's going to say, yea, I know it. So he's going to use the word gam for yea. And then know is yada, to know, that is, I see that, and hush, right? And he's going to do this again, right? Now, and then you're going to have Elijah try to get Elisha to tarry, and he's going to go, so he's at Gilgal, he goes to Bethel, now he goes to Jericho. So they come to Jericho. So they're still on the west side of the Jordan, right? The sons of the prophets that were at Jericho came to Elisha and said unto him, knowest thou that the Lord will take away thy master from thy head today? And he answered, yea, I know it, hush. Elijah said unto him, tarry, I pray thee here, for the Lord has sent me to Jordan, right? So now he's going to cross the Jordan River, right, into Jordan. And he said, as the Lord liveth and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. And the two went on. Now then they're going to have here 50 of the sons of the prophets went and stood to view afar off, and they too stood by Jordan.
Could they be representing the 50 that remained after the so-called failure of October 22nd?
Yes, that's what I'm thinking, right? So I'm connecting that to July 18th. So the crossing of the Jordan here is going to be July 18th. Does that make sense? Maybe.
Oh yeah, that caused a great division.
Yeah. Okay. And the waters are divided hither and thither. Now, of course, we have the waters here. That's just, I actually saw a license plate yesterday when I was driving. BVW 4325. And, BVW, that's the Bach's volume of works. That's like, when they have Bach pieces, they're like BVW 999 or whatever. So I thought that was kind of an interesting license plate. But we know that that's the number of inclusive days from November 9th, 89 to 9/11. So when it smote the waters here, we can see the word smote is 5221. What is 5221? How do we understand that symbol?
December 25th, 21.
Right. Yeah, so it's December 25th, right, in 2021. So we have that symbol. So we have the symbol of the message of Jeff, right? Jeff's message from 9/11 or 11/9 to 9/11. We understand that November 9th also is connected then to November 9th, 2019, right? And then we have the December 25th symbol with the smote. Okay, so he smote the water. And they were divided hither and thither. Now, hither and thither is this number 2008. Now it's the same word in Hebrew. They don't have in Hebrew a here and there. They just have the same word, here and here. Okay? So this word is the word henna. It can mean this or that, right? It's lots of different ways. Hither, thither, hitherto. Yeah. Okay. So the waters are gonna be divided hither and thither, so that the two went over on dry ground. Okay. And it came to pass when they were gone over that Elijah said unto Elisha, ask what I shall do for thee before I be taken away from thee. And Elisha said, I pray thee, let a double portion of thy spirit be upon me. So we have obviously a double portion, which would represent the second angel's message, right, in this context. Do we agree with that?
Yes, and this also reminds me of the book of Ruth, all this swearing, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee type stuff.
Okay. So if you shall see me taken away from thee, so shall it be so unto thee. But if not, it shall not be unto thee. And it came to pass as they still went on and talked that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire. So they've crossed the Jordan River, right? So again we had Gilgal, Bethel, Jericho, and then they're going to cross the Jordan, and then they're going to have this chariot of fire. And we got this whirlwind as well, carrying Elijah up into heaven. And then the cloak being dropped, right? And Elijah saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. And he saw him no more, and he took hold of his own clothes and rent them in two pieces. And he took up also the mantle of Elijah that fell from him, and went back and stood by the bank of Jordan. Now, so he's going to pick up this cloak. He's going to go back. That's what I understand. He turned, right? He went back. That's shuv. And then he stands by the bank of the Jordan River. And he took the mantle of Elijah that fell from him and smote the waters and said, where's the Lord God of Elijah? And when he had also smitten the waters, they parted hither and thither. And Elisha went over. So he's going to cross back over, right? And then go to Jericho. Okay? Does that help us a little bit, sort of framing this story and how it's going?
Well, it's helping me.
Yeah, it's helping me.
We all
Okay.
of us have to retrace our steps and study, what did we miss? What lessons can be learned?
Yeah, and I would look at this, if you're going to say what happened after July 18, is that we went back, right? We retraced our steps, and we called upon the God of Elijah, right? We examined the foundation of the message, and that we found that it was laid correctly, right? Now then he's going to come to the sons of the prophets, which were to view at Jericho, saw him, and they said, the spirit of Elijah doth rest on Elisha. And they came to meet him and bowed themselves to the ground before him. So we can look at this as, we're understanding the message. We're accepting this message. But we know that there's going to be still, and Dwight says, well, they don't trust. They know that he's going to be brought up, but they're going to go look for him anyway. Now, that would be us, right? Did we have this period of doubt with the disappointment of July 18 and the failure of the Trump prediction? We can definitely put ourselves in these shoes, right, of wanting to figure this out, not necessarily knowing that God was leading us. We questioned it. All of us did at some point. Figure out what's going on. How do we address what's happened? So taking him up and cast him on a high mount. Maybe Jeff can take over the movement again. Maybe he'll come back. Maybe he's on some mountain or some valley. I don't know. Maybe that's how it applies. I don't know. But Elisha's going to say, okay, go ahead. So they sent therefore 50 men. They sought 3 days, but they found him not. Now, how do we understand the 3 days in relation to our movement?
I was wondering if that was the 3 years post July 18th, 20, until
Yeah,
Jed finally returned and satisfied the people of Jericho, the prophets of Jericho.
could be. Sometimes we apply the 3 days, though, to our dates. So it could be an examination of the dates that we did as well. And when they came again to him, for they tarried at Jericho, he said, for he tarried at Jericho, he said unto them, did I not say unto you, go not? And the men of the city said unto Elisha, behold, I pray thee, the situation of the city is pleasant, and as my Lord seeth, but the water is not, and the ground is barren. So here, they're going to say, it's like they're changing the subject. But he's going to take this water. So what's wrong with the water? The ground is barren. So what needs to be done with this water? And we probably don't have time to go through this right now. We can look at this tomorrow. So maybe we should think about this tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, if I was going to do the chapter division, I'd probably, maybe put this as chapter 1 of 2 Kings, or the last chapter of 1 Kings still, in that, Elijah ends and then Elisha begins. That's how I would divide these books myself personally. But they put it as the second chapter. And so I think that lines up with Judges chapter 2. But it's always interesting when we have these journeys, right, from different cities. And, basically, Jericho, Bethel, or I guess Gilgal, Bethel, Jericho, and then the Jordan. So you have like a 3-1 combination crossing to the Jordan. So any final thoughts before we close with prayer?
You have there a mention of the whirlwind and the chariot. So the chariot would likely have wheels. So I'm just thinking, like, you have that scenario in Ezekiel chapter 1. You have the whirlwind from the north, wheels within wheels type thing, a throne.
Yeah. And it also reminds me of Daniel 11, verse 40.
Okay.
Because he's going to come against them like a whirlwind with horses, chariots, and many ships, right? So you got whirlwind and a chariots there.
Yes.
So it can symbolize, part of that message. That message still continues. But yeah, there's lots of interesting things here. Okay, well, let's close with prayer. Dear Father in heaven, thank you for the time here for each person and for those that watch these videos. We know, Lord, that there's so much in your word that we cannot fully comprehend, but we are thankful, Lord, that your Spirit can teach us and that we can learn even if it is slowly. I ask that you can help Dwight and I and others who may be suffering with health problems, help us to heal completely, and that we can have the strength to do the things that you set before us. And I pray for each person that your Spirit can rest upon them and that your angels can watch over them. Bring us together again to study these things is our prayer in Jesus' name.